Good afternoon or evening, Mayor Nichols and members of the council. My name's Scott McCoy. I'm with the Law Department. I can't believe I think I've been here over 2 years. I don't know that I've ever presented in front of you guys,
I'm not so sure you have.
so go easy on me tonight. With me, I have Sergeant Johnny Vidrio from the City of Yuma Police Department. He's worked with me and rest of city staff over the last few months working on this type of ordinance and regulation. So let me talk a little bit about what we're trying to do tonight. Currently, before you for consideration or introduction tonight is Ordinance 2020-005. This ordinance will repeal and replace Chapter 21 of our Yuma City Code that relates to bicycles and play vehicles. The reason that we need to update our code, there's a couple of reasons. Our current city code provisions were adopted in 1978. They were primarily focused on bicycle use. Back in 2004, in response to some what some people have described as nuisance vehicles, the GO-PEDs, the little motorized combustion engine devices that were pretty noisy, the City Council adopted an amendment in 2004 that responded to those types of vehicles and devices. In the last 10 years or so, new technologies have emerged, new business models have developed, and the concept of shared mobility devices have seen a proliferation in Arizona and across the nation, frankly. We haven't had a lot of that sort of activity here in the city of Yuma, but we were recently advised by a shared mobility device company. They intend to introduce electric scooters to the city of Yuma probably by the end of February. When we learned that, we took a look at our current codes as it related to those types of devices, and we understood very quickly that we do not have a regulatory framework to respond to some of the issues that arise in that shared mobility device arena. So you can see in my slide here, we've got new technology that's come out, these electric bicycles, motorized bicycles. In our ordinance, you'll see a definition for electric personal assisted mobility devices, includes segways, hoverboards, and these unicycles. We have electric scooters, electric miniature scooters, motorized and electric skateboards, and then motorized play vehicles, which include a class of vehicles that may not be included in some of these other categories. Most importantly, none of these devices that you see in front of you, are considered motor vehicles under Arizona Revised Statutes Title 28. And so we needed a regulatory scheme to deal with the operation of these devices on our streets. With the introduction of these new technologies in these new devices, new issues have popped up. And as you can see on our slide here, in other jurisdictions where these types of devices are more frequently used, you see issues with improper parking, clutter of the right-of-way, blocked public access, sidewalks are blocked, alleyways are blocked, drive aisles are blocked, accesses to business are blocked. You see conflicts relating to private property rights, people dumping scooters or bikes on people's front yards, those sorts of issues. You end up with rider and automobile conflicts, rider and pedestrian conflicts on our sidewalks, and then you have the whole issue of unsafe or improper use. And so again, our ordinance is directed, regulations directed at addressing these specific problems that have arisen over the last 10 years or so. And I previously mentioned that we do have a company that's coming into town. They initially had thought they were going to introduce these scooters this week to the city of Yuma, working with our community development staff, which has done a great job in interfacing with this company. They've agreed to hold off on the introduction of these scooters until we can get some safety regulations and some regulations in place, which is this ordinance, and try to get us to a point where we can regulate some of the unintended issues that result. Ordinance is a complicated ordinance. It's not the easiest thing to get through, and I apologize for that, but there are very, very specific regulations that deal with very, very specific problems. But one of the ways that you can look at this ordinance and better understand it is just understand that we're really dealing with, this is an ordinance that has two sets of regulations that regulate two different types of devices. The first device that we're regulating are these devices that you see in the shared mobility commercial context, the electric scooters, the electric bicycles, and the motorized bicycles. Those are the devices that these companies are renting out to users and are going to end up on our streets and sidewalks. So those types of devices have a separate set of regulations that's in the ordinance. And then we have a different set of devices, which are recreational, more residential type use bike or devices. They aren't intended to be part of a transportation network. There are recreational, there are children oftentimes riding them. That's the hoverboards, the electric miniature scooters, go-karts, those sorts of things. And so the ordinance treats those two things very, very differently. And the reason we treat it differently is the way they're used and the way they're intended to be used. If you go through the ordinance, Section 213.02 through Section 213.13 are those sets of regulations that relate to the transportation-related devices, the electric scooters, electric bicycles, and motorized bicycles. Section 213.14 through 213.20 deal with the residential, recreational type devices. The transportation devices, the regulations that we have in the ordinance deal with issues like use and operation regulations, and you can see the code sections that are being amended to address those specific types of issues. Parking regs are in 06 and 08, prohibited operations, required safety equipment, and other regulations that are in the ordinance. The recreational residential devices, the regulations live in 213.15 through 213.19. One of the things that we did do, because I think I mentioned earlier that under Title 28, electric scooters, electric bikes, and motorized bicycles are not considered motor vehicles under Title 28. Consequently, the DUI laws and the impairment laws don't apply to bicycles and motor scooters and electric scooters. And so in our ordinance, we have treated impaired operation of scooters, bicycles, and so on like a DUI. And so the punishment would be the same. We've criminalized that behavior. We've looked at other cities and towns that have these things, and there was a real a point where these devices, people could operate them impaired. They're running into real conflicts with other vehicles, pedestrians, and it just looks unwise. And so we've added that to our regulations as it relates to the transportation devices. And so that is largely a summary, a 30,000-foot view of this ordinance and what we're trying to do. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. McCoy. I'm going to start off with just a couple questions. You described the two different types of vehicles or equipment or whatever you want to call
Devices.
them.
We'll call them
Devices. Okay, very good. That it regulates, and you said one is similar to the rental of vehicles, but it applies to privately owned vehicles. Devices that fall into that same category.
That's an excellent observation, Mayor Nichols. This ordinance is an ordinance of general applicability. We aren't regulating rental companies. We're regulating the world of users of these devices.
Okay. And then on the DUI, it's criminal, but because you don't need a license for it, that part of the criminal law will not be applied or will be applied as far as removing someone's license.
Another excellent observation. Because the operation of electric scooters and electric bicycles don't require an operator's license, the penalties associated with driving privileges are not included in our criminal ordinance for impaired operation. So the Department of Motor Vehicles is not involved in all. People wouldn't lose their driving privileges if they got a citation for operating an electric scooter while they were impaired.
Okay. And realizing the kind of the shorter duration of developing this ordinance because of the market issue coming forward. I know we haven't done the outreach, but we're going to be doing the outreach beginning tomorrow, and bicycle organizations, merchants that might be impacted, those are all on your list, or what's the plan as far as that outreach?
Mayor Nichols, we're obviously sensitive to stakeholders that this regulation might touch or impact. Ordinarily, we have a much longer lead up to preparing and presenting ordinances like this and have an opportunity to bring stakeholders to the table. The plan is, after tonight's meeting, that we will involve the bicycle community. We intend to meet with the Downtown Merchants Association and other commercial operations in the city and try to touch as many people as we can before our next opportunity to talk about it, which will be on February 17th. Get their feedback. We wish we could have done it. We were operating on about a 5-day run up to get this thing on the agenda, so we just didn't have the time to do that. But it's certainly in part of the plan. And in addition to that, our communications department is working on public service announcements to help our citizens better understand this ordinance, because we know it's not an easy read, and to help people kind of get a better understanding of what we're trying to do.
Thank you very much. Does council have any other questions for Mr.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Shoup?
Yes, I'm back.
Great to have you back.
Thank you. Two questions that I would have. Using these electronic things to ride around on could be used in bicycle lanes? And the other question is there an age consideration for the various riding mobility?
Through the mayor, Councilmember Shoup, those are two excellent questions. Let me address the second question first. There are age limitations as it relates to the transportation-related devices, the electric scooters, electric bicycles, and the motorized bicycles. Age of 16 and above can ride that. We're told that the company who's coming to town will not rent to anybody under the age of 18. We hope that's true, but we don't know that. But for citizens and regular folks, it's 16 and above on the electric scooters. With the play vehicles, it's 14 years of age, so we tend to go down a little bit lower on the age. So there are some age limitations, and we think that's important. And then the first question that you asked that related to the use of these devices in the bicycle lanes. We are treating the electric scooters, the electric bicycles, and the motorized bicycles like bicycles, and so they are allowed to ride in the bicycle lanes.
Mr. Mayor, which reminded me, if they're using it on the bicycle lanes, which is part of the streets, do they have to have any valid registration to use it on the roadways?
Through the mayor, Councilmember Shoup, no, there is no registration requirement. We invite folks to register their bicycles with PD, and we have a section in the ordinance that addresses that. Mm-hmm. But there is no state requirement or a city requirement that they have a special permit.
So they don't have to register it at any time for any purpose?
No, Councilmember.
Okay.
Very good. Any other questions?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Sheldon?
Yes, thank you. Excellent presentation.
Thank you.
I want to thank you and the administrator for making sure we had pictures of these devices, because initially it looked like we weren't going to have pictures or have a device physically present. So thank you very much for that. And you want to be sure to get in touch with the Yuma County Bicycle Coalition, since they're like the leading bicycle advocates